Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today it's time to do the second year pruning on my Grow a Little Fruit Tree trees. Now I'll link some information down in the description that talks a little bit more about Grow a Little Fruit trees. And then I will also link the playlist above that shows you how I have pruned these fruit trees in the past and how I planted them. But first let's look at them and let you know what the Grow a Little Fruit Tree method is. Now we're in my food forest, and right here we have two trees. They are planted in the same hole, about a foot apart, maybe 1.5 feet. And this is using the Dave Wilson backyard orcharding method. Now, he talks about how fruit trees in orchards are meant for mass production, but fruit trees in backyards are meant so that you can have a variety of fruit over an extended season with not necessarily the huge production of an orchard tree. Now, that being said, you do still get a large production. I have some peach trees that I'll show you up at the top of my hill where I get more peaches than I can actually use. Now, these are pluots. This is their second summer. I planted them the beginning of last spring. So this is their second spring. Actually, it's summer now, so this is their second summer. So we are going to go through, we're going to prune all the new growth. I shaped them in the spring, and I'll link a video at the top that showed how I shaped them and show you exactly how small they were. So we've got a huge amount of growth. Now the goal of these trees is to keep them about 6 feet tall, which is as tall as I can reach without a ladder. That's going to be for ease of maintenance so that we can get more fruit trees in the same area, and also so that we can harvest without a ladder. Now these are not the only trees that I'm going to be pruning. Right here, we've especially got one really tall one, but we've got an Asian pear that doesn't have as much growth as the pluots do, but we'll be cutting off some of this growth, and we'll show you how to do that. Now I'll show you another tree that I'm going to prune. This right here, getting squished in between my spruce trees, is a dapple dandy pluot. Now when I planted this tree here, these spruce trees were half the size. It had a good 5 feet on either side of it so that it could grow and expand. But I didn't calculate how fast these trees were going to start growing. These spruce trees are coming up on 20 years old, and this pluot is about 5 years old. So in the last 5 years, these spruce trees have really put on size. But as you can see, the pluot has really thrown out a lot of new growth. And we're actually going to cut that back as much as we need to keep it at 6 feet tall. Since this is 5 years old, the goal of this is just to keep it at a manageable height. Now the reason I planted the other pluots is because this pluot was not getting pollinated, and we get a ton of flowers every year. Looks like the fruit is going to set, but we usually only get 2 fruits. There's one, and the second one is in there. It's kind of hard to see. Let's see if we can find it in there. There it is right there. Now when you get a ton of flowers and not a lot of fruit, especially on years where we didn't have a freeze that would account for the fruit loss, that means the tree's not getting pollinated. And pluots, generally speaking, have very specific pollination needs. This is a dapple dandy, and the Flavor Supreme and the Flavor King will all pollinate it. Now back here beyond my tomato trellises, we have 2 apples and a pear. They've put on a good deal of growth, but I'm not going to be doing summer pruning on these trees. They look really tall, but they're looking tall because they are on a hillside. They're probably about 8 feet tall right now if you counted from the hillside up to the top branches. And they're around 15 years old, and I have stopped the summer pruning after the 6th year because they just don't put, they put on a lot of growth, but not enough growth that I really want to go through and do summer pruning on them. But we've got a ton. Let me see if I can get around my beds here. We've got a ton of pears. This is a Bartlett pear, and little to no apples because this is their off season. My apples are alternate bearers. We have a September Wonder Fuji right here and a Jonah Gold on the other side, and they both are alternate bearers on the same year, which means that I get little to no apples on their off year, and this is their off year. Last year we had a really good crop. And it's really hard to see because of all the growth, but all 3 of these trees are planted in the same hole and have the same spacing as the pluots, but these are in a triangle. Sorry you can't see the the rest of the trunks, but that's how these are planted. Now the other trees that we won't be pruning are my peach trees and my nectarine tree. These also been grown in the Grow a Little Fruit Tree method, but you can see the trunks a little bit better in how they were planted. So the one in the middle there is a nectarine. This is a peach. This is an O. Henry peach. And this one right here is an early Alberta. Now we are having a little bit of a reduced harvest on this tree. I'm not exactly sure why, although peach trees in Utah do not last very long. They last maybe 15 years, and this is the 15th year for this tree. Most of the problem is borers, and I did have borers in the trunks of these trees. They were down at the base earlier this spring. This was the first time I've really had serious borer issues with them. And we are going to have a decent nectarine harvest off of this. Now, summer pruning fruit trees might sound a little intimidating, but it is absolutely not intimidating. It is extremely easy. Basically, what you're doing is just size control. You don't have to worry about spacing of branches. You don't have to worry about where you prune. You don't even have to worry about the pruning rules. The only thing we're going to do, if I had a hedger to do this, I probably would use a hedger if I didn't think it would shred the ends of the branches. You do need a sharp pair of pruners, and we're just going to take the tops off to the height that we desire. So let's show you exactly how I'm going to do this. Now the first time that I did the summer pruning, actually maybe it was last year that I did it, so that was its second summer, I was able to just grab all of the leaves in one bunch and take them off in one cut. These trees are a little bit larger now, so I'm going to try to do the same thing. But the only thing that'll hinder me from using that method will be just the size of the tree. So let's see how many we can gather together and how much of this we can get cut down and how quickly we can do it. Okay, hopefully you can see me now. So I am 5 feet 2 inches tall. The 2 inches is very important. But these are just about 6 feet tall as they are right now. But I might, since they are still pretty young, I might take a little extra off, let's see, let me just guess here. I think we're going to gather all of these branches together and cut it there. Now this right here is going to be my measure. So I am going to make sure that all of the branches that I cut are around that height. And any branches that are shorter, like this one right here, we're just going to come through and tip to an outer bud. Now, the only reason I'm tipping these to an outer bud is because they are lower branches and I want them branching out rather than in. And even if we do prune to the wrong bud and it starts branching inward, those are the things that we fix in the spring pruning. So let's go through here and tip all of these. We want to make sure each branch has the tip cut off so that we can force more branching lower down. And that's it. This is about the height that I want to keep these trees. They may get a little bit taller. I've allowed my peach trees to get up around 8 feet and my apples and my pears to get up around that height. But this area is a smaller area and I need more room to get around them. So we're just going to keep them at the size that feels comfortable to me. And I think about this height will be it. Now let's look at the pear and see what we're going to do with the pear. So now we're going to do the same thing with this pear tree. It didn't have as much growth as the pluots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and just tip each of these branches about the same height. This is going to force new growth on the side shoots, and then we will have better branches to choose from when we do the pruning to shape the tree. And we will be tipping all of the branches, even if they're really short. There we go. It's not completely even, but it's going to be filling in, and we're still in the shaping process of this tree. And so we've pruned 3 trees in less than 5 minutes. Let's go prune the other pluot. Now the principles are the same with this tree. We're going to prune it to the height that I want it and not pay attention to the pruning cuts and the proper method of pruning. We're just going to reduce the height on this. And tip all of the new growth. So that's it. That's the end of my summer pruning for my young fruit trees, 3rd year. The older fruit trees I'm going to leave as they are, and I'm not going to do the summer pruning. So now I live in Utah, zone 6/7, and we have a pretty short growing season. Not as short as some, but definitely not as long as California. When I lived in California, I had to summer prune all of my fruit trees because the growth was so rampant. But here, it seems like when you do the summer pruning method for the first 6 years, it slows down the trees and dwarfs them enough that you really don't need to do it after year 6. Now there might be some areas or might be certain trees that do put on a lot of extra growth, and you may have to summer prune them. For example, my apple trees got a real severe pruning one spring, and then they put on a ton of sucker growth that grew really tall. And I did end up summer pruning them last year to get rid of that and to slow down their growth. And it worked. I'm not going to need to summer prune them this year. My peach trees, they get up around maybe, just above 8 feet tall. I prune them down to around 6 or 7 feet tall. And that's all that we end up doing. So hopefully this video has been helpful to you. If it has been helpful, I hope you like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.